from Sydney, Australia. You're about to meet Arte Maren. I have a feeling that this interview could go just about anywhere. 10 p.m, Sydney, Australia, Sunday night. 7 a.m, Clearwater, Florida, Sunday morning. Good morning, Arte Maren.
Oh, great. Thanks, Mike. It's fantastic to be here and to be there.
Yeah, that's right, huh? Just like we've got the world pinned from both sides.
Yeah, I loved Australia when I was there, and that's where we met. And my lecture there, I think, was very successful. We had, I don't know how many people, 500 or 800, I don't know. But no, it's great to be back, and I hope soon, when things sort out, I'll be able to get back to Sydney.
I'm looking forward to jumping on a plane too and coming over there.
Good.
Fantastic. So I've got some questions I'm dying to ask you.
Sure.
So I'll see how we go. We'll just roll through. And again, thank you so much for getting up so early. And I'm just going to fire away, and this is your show. So whatever you wanted, however you want it to roll, the screen's yours. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
Good. Okay. Good. So the first question I have is a little bit about, because you're quite experienced in business consulting at different angles. When you go in to help a business, do you straighten out the business or the individual, or is this the same thing?
Well, it's an interesting question, Mike, because the business is a mirror image of the owner. So it really does take a bit of both. When I begin with a client, we do an analysis of the company, but we also do a personality analysis. We do an analysis of their strengths and weaknesses individually, and we often see that mirrored in the company. So it's often necessary to take on both. But I want to make one point of caution, and that is, in most cases, it's a system problem, not a personal problem. And if I'll just make one more comment about that. Every now and then, I'll go into a company and they'll say, oh, we have a lot of personality clashes. I have never found a personality clash. What I found is systems that don't work together, which is basically why I wrote the book on the natural laws of management, because it is a technology of coordination and harmony.
Absolutely. I think you just answer the questions I've been trying to answer for the past 6 months, trying to hack new people into the company, and I swore it was a personality situation.
Really, it's not. I mean, you may have hired incorrectly, meaning you hired somebody who shouldn't have been hired in the first place.
We definitely didn't do that. Good guys.
But if I take apart a, quote, personality clash, I can tell you what I find. Either they don't have any hatting, meaning they haven't been trained in the position. So if they're not trained in the position, they spread a lot of noise around them. Okay? You got a productive person sitting there who's trying to get their work done, and somebody else is interfering with their business, and they're asking questions. They need to be fixed. They need to be corrected. So that can look like a personality clash. Well, I don't really get along with this person. Well, actually, people are usually very friendly. There shouldn't be a problem. I bet a lot of people get along with that person at home or outside the workplace. No, it's usually because of a failure of educating that employee, or the system is banging things together. Meaning, how do the communications flow, whether they're on email or written or calls or whatever. So you really need to investigate that, but I haven't found it to be the case.
Wow, that's extremely interesting. I think we said educating the person. The first step is educating the boss, the owner. about,
Well, and you know what? It could also be the person complaining of the personality clash. It
yes,
could be the senior who doesn't know how to handle juniors. You see, that's another piece of technology.
absolutely. Well, I actually I repurchased your book today. We've got a copy of it, but I saw we've got the audio for that book now. So I decided to purchase it again because I want to listen to every single chapter, and straight away I've just got the heads up on why I want to dive into this further again and review again an amazing booklet.
Great,
Yes,
great, thank you.
good, mate. Okay, thank you very much. When you start working with people who are under a lot of financial pressure, how do you help to cool things down so that they can then start to pull out of it again?
Good question. Well, let's take a look at what level of financial pressure. Example, if it's very heavy pressure, the vendors are calling, they want to get paid. The number one action, you got to wall it off. The executive director or the owner, the people who generate income, cannot be and should not be distracted from generating income, which is the only solution to the financial problem, right? So if you don't free them up to put their total attention on it, you're really in trouble. So you got to wall it off, meaning you get somebody assigned, whoever that is, and whether it's a bookkeeper, another person you hire, but all requests, all difficulties, all situations regarding that finance line is walled off and sent to that person.
Mm,
They can start sorting it out. And then you have to have a bookkeeper or a CPA or somebody online who can start working out the examples. But when you put financial difficulties onto the production staff, you're basically killing yourself.
completely understood. Yeah.
So that's the first example would be this extreme example where there's a lot of traffic, right? If it is a quote normal financial difficulty, the way you dig yourself out of financial difficulty is by making money. Now, I realize that that is an oversimplistic statement, right? But if you get away from trying to analyze why you have these financial difficulties, and you look at not just the income, most importantly the outgo. And by outgo, I don't mean how much money am I spending, although that's part of it, but what are we delivering? The financial difficulties come out of a non-delivery mind. People who are, and when I say delivery, what do I mean? Meet their expectation? No, I'm talking about exceeding their expectation. If you deliver in abundance, if you deliver beyond expectation, you're not going to have any financial difficulties. So the simplistic answer is you have to look at two things. First, your outflow. That is to say, what are you producing of value? Which is, I might mention the whole first half of my book. And secondly, expenses, because you have to have a profitable ratio. So that would be the short answer.
No, that's perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the importance of the person that does bring the money into the company has really got to be protected. He's what do they call it in the American football? The guy who's scoring the goals all the time.
The quarterback. Yeah,
The quarterback. Yeah, he's like
you protect, exactly, a good analogy, Mike. You protect the quarterback.
they build a wall around this guy, and he just like pops the ball, and that's
Right.
that's what his job is. So you got to let the whoever the game maker is in the company, whether it's the top salesman or it's the top sales team or the general manager himself, the owner of the company, you got to build a wall around this guy and let him get out there and produce the sales to bring in the work.
Exactly. And a word of caution to all the executives who are listening and watching: who distracts you? Who tends to bring your attention off of the production and the value of your company and onto the internal problems? Who causes the most problems? If your listeners and watchers are familiar with the Pareto principle, where 80% of the difficulties are coming from 20% of the crew,
Mm.
who's within that 20%? Who's causing turmoil, right? That has to be looked into very, very carefully. Because one of the things I tell my clients all the time is don't ask what, ask who. Could be very revealing.
That's a very key question. Thank you. With all of the seminars, books, and training programs that you produce, what do you feel that it is mostly you are putting into the world?
Oh, I think it's aligned with the reason I wrote the book, which is harmony. I'm a big fan of ease. I'm also a big fan of productivity. So how do we marry up this great effort that you can make to make a difference, but do it in a way that doesn't kill you, right? It has to be done in minimal stress. So is it possible, I put this to your listeners, is it possible to create great effects with minimal stress? And the answer is yes. Look at a bridge. A bridge is capable of taking a tremendous amount of weight with little stress. How does it do that? Well, it does it because every component of that bridge is aligned with every other component, and it's able to handle a lot of weight, a lot of energy. So it's really an engineering principle of energy displacement. How well does that energy flow within the company and from external to internal? And I guess that's my biggest joy, is when I'm able to assess and locate the areas, the pressure points, the stress points, or what we call friction, right? Where's the friction in the company? See? Because friction stops flow, and the stopping of flow stops growth. Expansion is all about speed.
Absolutely. So for the company, if we're looking at it like as a whole bridge, the bridge is only as strong as its weakest point. So we've got if we've got a weak point, fix it. Another weak point, fix it. And we just continually, and all of a sudden we've got this super structure.
That's right.
We've got a powerhouse to build and load up the bridge, yeah?
Exactly.
Well, thank you. Good. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of your own medicine back here, Adi.
Right.
Your weekly publication, packed with amazing content. I was actually very much drawn to this one here called The Elixir of Life, Enjoyment. And there was one teaser line particularly which really grabbed a hold of me. What is the most valuable thing you possess? Adi, I want to ask you this question personally. What is the most valuable thing you possess?
Okay. Well, I remember that webinar very, very well. As you know, I do every Wednesday. The time is a little tough for you, but every Wednesday at 1 p.m., which would be 3 a.m. your time. So I don't imagine too many listeners, but I do have the video. And if I may say, I can be reached at artmarentraining.com. Sorry, and artmarenmanagementtraining.com. One of the most popular shows have been on this subject of enjoyment. And how does that relate to business? Well, let's just take it on for a moment. If you're not enjoying your business, you've already got a problem. And you could say, well, yeah, but I have a lot of problems and so on. Look, I'm going to give you a very high level statement. A person can enjoy anything. It's a skill. If you're waiting for the environment to give you enjoyment, you got a problem because you're dependent. I hope they're hearing what I'm saying. You cannot be dependent. The growth of a business is dependent upon your position of cause. You make things happen. You don't watch things happen, and you don't wonder what happened. You make them happen. You make enjoyment occur. And that's a very tough lesson. But you can develop it. It's a muscle, Mike.
Yeah.
Right? It's a muscle. You look at something. I mean, I tell you, when I started looking at this datum, I was in Greece at the time, in Athens. I was delivering a seminar, and something happened back home, 10,000 miles away, whatever. And I was bothered by it, and I thought, well, I'm going to apply this principle. Can I enjoy this situation? And it sounds insane, I realize that. But by working it, I was able to start looking at how I made it happen and how I was really the cause of it, right? So I don't know if your listeners, how many are familiar with Hubbard management technology. My entire book is dedicated to one tool, one management tool called the scale of importance. What I found over the years, and I've been doing this 50 years, is that people have a difficulty with choosing the important from the unimportant and working on the important. And within the Hubbard management system, and this was to some degree an outgrowth of, some of your readers probably heard about Dianetics, the modern science of mental health.
Yes.
That's what I use to improve personal enhancement, because people need to remove themselves from the weight that they carry around unnecessarily. But this concept of enjoyment, and here's the other point, it's about the game, not the destination. Mm-hmm. You enjoy the effort for the sake of the effort. If your only play is the end point, you're efforting too much and you're not enjoying the route. It's the adventure. Look, the adventure is long play. The arrival is over at the moment you arrive. You see, the real pleasure, the real sensation is enjoying the effort, enjoying the road. Because when you get there, it's done. And how many of us, as we gain more wealth, say, oh, I want to be wealthy. Oh, I want to, and you get there and okay, that's nice. But now what? And what now what does is it turns your attention to exactly what I'm doing with the Godfathers of Good.
Yes.
You need to reach out and help others, because the only real riches is not the money in the bank. It's the help that you can be to somebody else.
Definitely. Wow. It's like if I only had just $1 million, I could just solve everything. It just doesn't work like that. Well, it helps.
Look, people don't understand that even with wealth comes problems. It's not like no more problems.
Yes.
In one of my seminars on finance, I talk about a client I had who once called me at 3:00 in the morning. This guy was a multi-millionaire. And he said, I got a problem. I have to talk to you now. I can't sleep. I said, okay, Richard, what? What is it? He said, I just made another $5 million. What do I do with it? I'm up on. In other words, this guy had a problem of too much money, right? So, it's all relative, isn't it?
That's a great problem. It sure is. Yeah. And it's, when it's over, when it's all over, you think like, wow, what do I do now? And I can remember so many times when I just thought if I can just, get that job and win that job, or we can just finish that job, or I can just win that game, or, I've definitely got some stories on that. If I can just fight my way off and win this battle, everything's going to be all right, But the fun is in the battle and fighting the fight and dodging the punches,
Exactly.
And making the actions that were successful. That's where the fun is, and having the weekly muster when everybody's production was up. It's just such a great feeling.
Right. Well, I gained, over the years, like I said, I've been doing this 50 years. When I say 50 years, it's actually a little more. I kind of fudge it a little bit because I actually went into the workplace in 1966, approximately. And the problem was, I wanted to be an executive. I had just finished a career as a singer and a dancer, and for some reason I was kind of interested in that arena of capital, but I struggled tremendously because I was trying to do it off my own innate sense, and I was looking for a system, some help. But you know what I found, and this is really important, I think. There were no systems. It was eclectic. I could learn a little bit about management from here. I could learn a little bit from there. And it wasn't until 1972 when I read Hubbard's essay on the scale of importance, where he had researched the definitive areas of what's important in a company. That was a big relief because I was looking at everything. You see, well, this is important. That's important. I got to learn that. I got to learn that. And Hubbard laid it out from the very top of the scale, which was goals. I mean, obviously, there's nothing more important than a goal because that's the whole thrust of what you're doing, down to the very bottom of the scale, which is the product. What are you producing? And in between were things like statistics and policy. And again, not to be commercial, but that's the direction and thrust of my entire book. But what people don't understand or often get is that it's not their frailty, it's that they're missing the tools. One of my videos is, are you digging a hole with a spoon? And in that video, I make it clear that if you're using the wrong tool, I don't care how hard you work, you're not getting enough dirt out, right? So that's what my thrust is. How do I supply the tools that can help? And how do I make it harmonious by minimal effort, maximal return?
Yes. Yeah, very good. So I'm just going to come back and just the question again. I'm trying to see if I can get a concise answer to it. So what is the most valuable thing that you possess?
It works in two ways. Your innate sense of power, your ability to recognize how powerful you actually are. That's the left hand. Let me go to the right hand, which is how you minimize your power. How does that happen? You permit any kind of self-doubt. You permit worse than self-doubt. You permit self-invalidation. I'm not quite as good. I'm doing an entire webinar on this next week, just on the basis of validation. We know in the Hubbard system, you get what you validate, right? You get what you put your attention on. If you put your attention on your weaknesses, you get more weakness. If you work on strengthening your strength, you get more strength, even if it's a little bit at a time.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. I think that answers my question. So I think I'm ready to pack up and go to work now, mate. I'm quite revitalized.
Good. That's my product. We all have an effect we want to create. The effect I like to create is, I've just expanded my universe. I feel more strong. I want to get out there and get some work done.
Yes.
And that's the best pay I could get.
And it really is having the hand which has got your power in it, and not letting the other hand invalidate that power. Because when you walk into the space of your business, if you walk in with that invalidation hand running things, it actually influences everyone in your area. And multiplied by lots of people means multiplied by lost income, lost production. So it really does come back to the owner of the company to really look at himself as a powerful being and take responsibility for that.
That's a perfect example, Mike. And not only is it validate yourself, don't invalidate yourself, but you can't permit any invalidation from others.
Yes.
You don't permit it. You see? That means you don't buy into it. Let me just give a tip for this because I think it'll be very helpful.
Mm.
Well, Arte Maren says don't buy into it, but sometimes it rings true. That's the trap. You'll only get trapped in an invalidation that has a semblance of truth.
Mm.
If it's all a big lie, right? If you're a very industrious person and somebody comes along and says the problem is you're lazy, you're not going to buy that. You say, get lost. I know how to work. But if they say something that has a little bit, a speckle of truth to it, that traps your attention.
Yes.
Maybe they're right. And you start internalizing. Now, forget it, man. But also be very careful about who comes along to try and weaken your power, because an invalidation is an attempt to say, hey, come on down to my level. Not okay. You got to, again, it's not what, it's who.
Absolutely. Wow. That's right. There's a perfect example. It is the who, Someone's like, come on, old fella, you're not as fast as you used to be. It might sound like a friendly little joke, but,
That's right.
Us old fellas have still got some...
Hey, listen, here's a tool I'd share with all your watchers and listeners.
Yes.
Keep a log. Put a book in front of you tomorrow. You get back to work.
Yeah. And
start logging in and noting where you get distracted. Who are the distractors? What are they bringing you? What takes you off your game? You see, every one of those has a name, and you start logging it. And you may find at the end of 2 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, one name is popping up more than any other. You got to deal with that. Wow. Now, what am I saying? Fire them immediately? You better bring them in, or you better start investigating further into their area. What are their statistics? Are their statistics correct? What else have we found about that person? We go to HR and look it up further. It may be that we're going to dismiss them right away. It may also be that they're very valuable, but they're not trained. They're not hatted, so they're causing a lot of noise. You see?
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a conduct situation or a discipline situation. It may be an educating situation. And you got to determine or distinguish between, is this education or discipline?
I think this could be the most clever smartphone app to come out in the 21st century. Just push the button whenever you get a distraction and go, there's another one. And then executives could walk around just pushing the button for the different guys. And at the end of the week, they could go, this area here, let's put a bit of correction in here, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, this was Hubbard's genius, is isolating these kinds of things, right? Yes. The distraction log, or what we call developed traffic, right? Traffic that shouldn't be happening in the first place, has a source. But that source is not, quote, life.
Yes.
That source is not a generality, right? There's a source, and the source traces to a person. And sure, everybody can be, distracting here and there, but there are some who really need either education or dismissal or both. And you got to find that out quickly. But if you do the log, you may be very surprised at what comes up.
I'm going to do the log.
Okay. Let me know how it goes.
I will, don't you worry. I'll test it out after the first week. We're going to have a little phone call. Fantastic. Okay, good. So we're moving along here. This is fantastic. Amazing data. Thank you so much. Unlike, I thought I had a bit of a feeling of where you might be going with these questions. I was wrong. I had no idea how you're going to answer them at all. And this is a lot of fun.
Good.
Arte Maren, a man with an incredible career and still running an amazing group of companies. I want to ask you personally, through your entire lifetime, any time that you could share with us, was there any particular time when you found yourself that you were backed up against the ropes and you had no choice other than to fight your way out?
Yeah, several times, but the time that comes most is the one I was talking about earlier, when I began my career in business, in a sense. Not only did I not have a system, but I didn't have a system for living either, Mike. You know, it was just, it's like you're playing a game. Okay, we could say life is a game because we have opponents and we have a goal. So life's a game. But if you don't know the rules or you're not equipped to play the game, you're going to have a hard time. And I was depressed every day. I was unfriendly and I couldn't communicate. Now that's a pretty good recipe for disaster. This is not somebody who's going to be very, very successful in business or in life.
That's hard to believe. I'm talking to you now.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that. So what's the difference? Is the difference I woke up one day and I was effusive and I was friendly and I was communicating? No. I had to remove the unknown barriers. This is the key. It's not what you know that gets to you. Because if you know it, you handle it. If you can't handle it, there's an unknown. This is probably the biggest lesson I learned. You know, people say, well, I know why I don't get along with redheaded women because of blah, blah. Okay, so now that you've noticed that, does it get better? No. So that's not it. It's something you don't know. It's not what you know that gets to you. It's what you don't know. And what I found when 1963, I came across a book, Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, May 28th, 1963. I know it so well because when I read the book, it struck that chord, which was, it's not what you know, it's what you don't know. And what you don't know are moments of stress and unconsciousness and all of these things that affect you, and you can find out what they are, not from a psychological sense. And I proceeded to find out, and I started lifting these stresses off of me, which allowed me to see clearer. And at the same time, I found the Hubbard management system. So that was a huge, huge change. So what am I saying? It's taking a step towards a seeking of improvement and finding those things that work for you. There may be others. I don't doubt it. However, I know that what I'm talking about today, those two things, Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, and the Hubbard management system, as represented to some degree in my book, The Natural Laws of Management, highly recommended as a great start. I mean, here, Mike, here's Mike, Mike King, a very successful entrepreneur, who, by the way, the listeners should know, I visited 4 or 5 years ago in Sydney.
It was an amazing day. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mike invited me over to meet him and his beautiful wife, and we sat down and we began talking. And I because of my 60 years of experience, and because I have seen so many businesses, I was able to, in our discussion, pinpoint an area, because it's not what you know, it's what you don't know, and that includes in business. And I was able to pinpoint an area and say, well, Mike, maybe this could be done this way. Oh, yeah. Now, how did that happen? It happened because, number one, I was separate from the company, and I want to mention something about that. And number two, I had studied the essence, the fundamentals of management and those truths that work. And that's how that happened. Also, reminds me now of another tip. The reason you are the executive director, the reason you are up here above the company, is for you to be looking at the future. Your line people, your execs, they are looking downward. They're looking into the operation, into the mechanics. But that's not your value. You want to be working in the company. You want to be working on the company. And you want to keep your attention out there. You know, right now, Mike, in your business, you know, you're looking at, we're always 6 months from now, a year from now. That's the value of the leader, right? Okay, that's all about that.
Thank you. Perfect. Beautiful. I remember that day so well. We actually I invited you around, and especially I'd heard so much about what you can do for a company, and we just literally had a walk around the warehouse, and then we had a coffee, and we just had some chit chat, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, instead of feeling like I just wanted to go home every time I walked in the warehouse, I was just like, yeah, let's take this thing apart. And it just, because such a weight came off the whole administration confusion that we were going through. And it was just such a simple, easy thing for us to do. So
there's always an answer. You know, Mike, the problem is that some of your people watching and so on, they've had a non-optimum situation. And it's been that way so long, it's become normal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that part of the business? Oh, yeah, that's always difficult. Oh, that part of my life? Oh, that's it. Oh, that part of the marriage? No, that's always. It's what I call the dimmer switch, right? It's like a little light switch. You can, if you turn down the light switch a little bit, pretty soon you get used to that, and that becomes normal,
Yes.
right? You turn it down a little more, and after a while, you're sitting here in darkness, right? And you forgot how bright it could be. And this is important.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it was definitely, it was a game changer for us, and we still look back on that day, and we haven't forgot what occurred on that day at the warehouse. You know, we're now sitting in. I actually came after hours here Sunday night. I'm at our brand new warehouse, which we now own, which is about 6 years. It must have been more than 6 years ago, because we've been here for 6 years now. And we're renting that old one back in Petersham on the other side of town. And now we're right side of town. We've got this amazing warehouse, which we purchased, which is just such a big step forward. And that day when you came around, I was just about ready to change my career, actually, you know.
Wow. Okay.
But that wouldn't have solved it anyway, because you basically, you do have to solve what you're in rather than run away from it, right?
Of course.
Good. Now, we're doing really well for time-wise. I just want to slip in another question, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we've got this amazing background, Philanthro Investors, right behind you. And I'm always really curious about this, because, you know, I'd love to have more time to go and help, and more time to go and, you know, do things for the community and so forth. And it's quite restricting, because the business is such a commitment. So making money. So you're the CEO of Philanthro Investors,
Mm-hmm.
the new CEO, and making money while doing or investing in philanthropy activities. So you're spending money into areas that are helping communities, or helping areas, or helping society and mankind, but it's an investment. How does this work?
Well, this is the whole idea. You know, the founder of the company, Ivan Ans, who's a major entrepreneur in Argentina and owns a lot of property and so on. He just was anti-speculation. You know, he felt with all the ills of the world, we have bad water, and we have bad air, and people are hungry, and yet billions and billions of dollars are spent gambling, throwing it away, speculation in the stock market, where 90%, scientifically 90% people don't make money in the market. Why don't we direct this money to something effective, social change? And he then came up with Philanthro Investors. And these are investors who want to make a difference, but are also making a return. So for instance, and so we have 7 operations right now, one of them on real estate. And with real estate, we're able to give our investors a 12% return plus equity, but they're putting people in homes, right? We actually purchase the homes, we sell them to investors, we put people in the home, and these are people who couldn't quite afford or couldn't make the credit from a bank. But we have a credit a valuation that allows us to do it. Our failure rate is 6.8% who don't make their payments, which is very, very terrific. But that's real estate.
Oh, yes.
We have another one on water. Companies that are doing something important about the purity of water. We have another one on structure. We have another one on energy. So any investor, anybody who wants to put their money into something that is for the public good, as you see behind me, it says invest with a purpose.
Yes.
Money for money, no happiness. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Have another Jaguar, another 5 cars, another, and then you need another 7 to be happy. No, it's help. Okay. In fact, if people want to look at it, equityandhelp.com is one of our companies. Equity and Help.
Yes.
Okay? So, and they can also go to philanthroinvestors.com and you can see what we do. But this is all part of our effort towards public good. This is part of our motto in terms of doing things that help others, because that is the real reward. And that leads into why we have Godfathers of Good, right?
Yes.
And what's appropriate, Mike, about this is Godfathers of Good technically began in Sydney.
My God.
Okay? Technically began in Sydney because that photograph
Yes.
that I sent you of the Godfathers of Good,
it's amazing. It's the
that was taken in Sydney.
Yes.
That's where that was. The 4 of us were there.
It's a great shot.
And now we've banded together to basically do projects and to talk about the way to happiness. And by that I mean the actual booklet called The Way to Happiness, right? So your listeners can go to thewaytohappiness.com and they can see, or is it .org? I think it's .org.
Yes.
Yeah. Thewaytohappiness.org, and they can see the booklet, which is a non-religious moral code that allows people to apply certain principles towards their road to happiness. Because it's achievable. Anybody can be happier. And it's not a matter of giving you more than what you already have. It's removing the impediments, the barriers, so that your real happy self shines out.
Absolutely. So philanthro investors, I think we're looking here at the new retirement fund. People are putting their money into superannuations so that they can retire one day. This would be like the ultimate way of putting something into an investment for the future, which is going to give you a solid retirement, but also guarantee the future of this planet and also the generations to come. And, of course, when we're already heading towards retirement, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are such a concern for us. And what a better way for us to invest ourselves into activities like this and also be rewarded.
Well, it's a legacy program because, for instance, at equityandhelp.com, you'll see that that's a 20-year program, right? But your investment, which is really not a lot, the minimum is 3 homes. You're going to put 3 families in there. You're going to spend maybe $150,000. You're paid off in 6 years, but you're accruing that 12% every year for 20 years.
Yes.
So at 20 years, you've left that legacy. You see, it's very, very effective. And it includes, by the way, investors around the world. Our investors are in 16 countries.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody in Australia, ANZO, anything like that, or New Zealand that's interested, they can just contact me and I can put them in touch. And we can arrange it, including IRAs and things like that. So I'm not here today to promote that as much as the public good. My message is the way to happiness. My message is help and you'll get all the help you need in return, right? But if you're concentrating on making money, you're going to have a very sticky life.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So the details for for Lancer investors, of course, it's quite obvious, but we'll have it all links at the in the video below in the description, and also at the end of this video. So anybody wants to know more about that, they can definitely contact Arte directly and get a full package and everything they need to know about the Invest with Purpose program. Arte Maren, what is your message to the world?
Boy, you know, you wait your entire career to be answered, to be asked that question. You know, I'm going to say that if you take your attention off of yourself and you put it on others, what can I do for someone? Not what can everybody do something for me? I think that's really the first step. I'm going to say right now, I mean, I'd have to contemplate it, and that's a very, deep question. But what comes to my mind immediately is that it's far more healthy. It's far more physically and spiritually healthy. I mean, I'm healthy spiritually and physically. Why? Well, I mean, the people on this program should know I'm going to be 79, right? It's 7 in the morning. I've already been up 2 hours. I'll work all day, get a lot of work done. I won't hit the bed till 10 or 11. And I will be as enthusiastic as I am right now. Why? Because I'm not looking here. Okay? I'm always looking out there. What else can I do to help? It's kind of a secret, because if you want to make money, help more people.
Yes.
Okay? If that's what it's all about, help more people. If you can help people make money, you can also help people without having to make money. But it's still always, the attention is over there, not here.
Oh my God. If you want to make more money, help more people.
Sounds like my message. I think I got it.
Thank you. Arte Maren, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mike, for doing this,
Oh my God.
Mike's not making a living doing this. He's not, he didn't call me and say, hey, give me $500 and I'll put you on television.
I just wanted to talk to the legends. I just want to talk to the legends, the champions. There's just amazing people throughout our society, and and we don't hear about it on the news. We don't hear it on the media, and this planet is filled with 7 billion incredible people, and everyone's got their stories. And Arte Maren, thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome.
Was with us today. Incredible. I'd love to have you back.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
All right, Arte. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you next time on the ropes.
Okay. You got it.
There are 3 miracles of business, and they're quite simple. 1, somebody came in. Somebody entered your store or bought your product. That's miracle number 1. You say, well, I don't know, that's not a miracle. Yeah, it should be treated as a miracle. I was talking to a very famous person from the stage, theater, one day, who had been in a show for 3,000 performances. And I asked her, how do you do that night after night? The same thing, 3,000 performances. And she said, it may be my 3,000th performance, but I know it's the audience's first. So when that person buys a product, this may be your 10th for the day, your 50th, your 1,000th. When they come into your store, it may be the 50th or 1,000th, but it's their first. The first miracle, and it should be treated that way. That person, that patient, that customer, that client walks in on a red carpet. This is a big deal. The staff are very pleased to see this happen, and they are given the utmost service. Have you ever walked into a store where the reception for you, the recognition that you existed, was so small, almost non-existent, that you felt like apologizing for disturbing them? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, I'll come back later. This is not business. The first miracle of business is somebody walked in. All the effort you made to bring somebody to your attention, to come into your business, your store, to order your product or your service, all that time and attention is now occurred. And there should be a red carpet rolled out. The band plays, and they are given the utmost care and service. One of the ways that I encourage employees to understand the factor of customer service is to sometimes scare them. And I mean this in a nice way. Imagine if I was in front of all your employees and I said, well, we have a new pay arrangement now. What we're going to do is every time a person comes in the store or buys something, then that money will be split amongst all the employees. Well, I think this would put their attention on the fact that unless they provide excellent service, they don't get paid. See, the problem sometimes with employees is they don't fully comprehend where money comes from. You're the owner, and there's a concept that somehow, what? You go to this secret place and you take out all this money and then you pay them. No, they're getting paid because a customer or a client or a patient has given money to the company, and they're getting a piece of that. This needs to be really understood, because to the degree that we service well, that we produce well, then everybody makes more money. So there must be a valuable service or product, and we must recognize that the consumer of this product has just bought, has just walked in. And this is a cause for celebration. Okay, am I exaggerating the point? Yes, because I think it needs to be exaggerated. Miracle number 2. They got more than they expected. Number 1, somebody walked in or bought your service or product. Number 2, they got more than they expected. Not what they expected. They got more than they expected. What creates word of mouth? Do you think it's normal? If you went to a movie and you didn't think much of it, do you go home and call your friends? I just went to a movie. Oh, really? How was it? Oh, it was nothing. Well, why did you call me to tell me about a movie that's nothing? But when you saw a movie that was more than you expected, now you tell I saw a great movie the other night. This is a natural human phenomena, that when you receive something more than you expected, there's a tendency to, outflow that, to balance the flows. I got more than expected. It was fantastic. I'm going to tell people. This is what creates word of mouth. Starting tomorrow, starting immediately, in your company, what should be normal is giving more than they expect. See, it's just anything you can do to create more than they expect. Here's a drill for you. Gather your key staff and ask, is there anything we do in our company that ensures that they're getting more than they expect? Is there anything we're doing that somehow doesn't give them more than they expected? It's just normal. We don't have normal in my company. Because normal is what? The average of competency. Normal does not build affluence. No, it's giving more than is expected. 3 miracles of business. 1, somebody walked in or bought your product or service. 2, they got more than they expected. And 3, they tell others. And how do we do that? How do we make sure they're telling others? I can tell you that in order to get word of mouth, you deliver more than is expected, and to some degree, it's going to happen on its own. And you can communicate about your service and find out who else they know that might need your product or service, especially at the point of sale. When you're making that sale or that purchase, that's the time to remind them, hey, you know what? We're a referral-based business. We appreciate if you would get the word out to others.